questions here for this panel, but I also wanted to give you the chance to ask questions of our panellists. So perhaps if we open it up to the floor. Anybody have questions?
Yeah, on the waterfront, do you think how it is now is actually better for the full practice last decade or two than it might have been if it was like and actually kind of got rolled out? Not that necessarily would have been rolled out from those drawings, as you're saying, that they were about ideas rather than final solutions. But do you think it's better because of the you're saying about talking to the public and having a conversation? In some ways that's happened because people are motivated to actually be interested. And maybe Christchurch, will also be better by if there's actually to and fro, and then the product of that is something other than just somebody's answer.
Well, there is an issue. It does seem to me there is an issue of momentum there, I suppose, and it seems that there was quite a lot of good work that happened, the early thing that was sort of a little bit kibosh with that kind of communication thing fell over, but after that there was that kind of hugely elaborate kind of consultative process to develop the framework, which was reasonably, I think, put together. It seems to me that it was quite a good document, and then the system of tags sort of with Graeme having chaired all those years was also quite a good mechanism. Now, that never reached status of the district plan, and I suppose it was there as a map. And it seemed to me it had acceptance because members of Waterfront Watch and there were members across all those things that actually would participate in that. So it was kind of quite a lively document. But it does seem to me that that part of the reason that it's kind of blown up again with recent things on state and so on is the loss of momentum through there, possibly, and just the fact that the conversation wasn't continued. But possibly compared to Auckland, I gather there's a kind of maybe it's all too fast there, but you get the sense that there's a sense of momentum there to the delivering the pills with the sweets, and at least they're talking about doing this, and we should see how that goes. But Graeme, you've obviously been thinking about that.
Look, I think there has been, I guess, some pluses and minuses. I think there was the lobby group that Chapers Park made it happen back in, that must have been around 96 or so, Mary Garner, and they probably did a very good thing because they ensured in the brief for the concept plan there was a big park at Waitangi, and the concept plan process there were 4 options drawn. But effectively that actually helped make the political decision that there would be no apartments all over the Chapers area. So that was really, really, really positive. I guess it's a bit like looking at the waterfront. There's some view that needs to be political view that has been in the past, needs to be finished in 5 years and finish it. Well, look, I think if you can't get it right, you better just hold fire and then get it right at a later time. And to make an analogy, long cooking time makes flavours and food sort of thing. You can bash it in, do it, and if the compromise is to be made, that's bad. However, if there's something really good to be done, do it, straight away. If you've got the right economic conditions and you can do it, whoever's going to do it will get it built. But I wouldn't sort of be rushing to finish anything unless it's going to be done really well. Because once it's done, it's there for the long term.
Yes, I think it's too pretty. One of the things, the tradition of a waterfront is that the front of the water's edge is tough. That's where the custodians were, that's where the boats tied up, that's where the marine users were. That was the place where the custodians looked out to the water and saw whether it was fine enough to move away into the sea. The tributaries, which actually moved from that historical and strong face, was narrowed and moved up to the Commerce Street, which was on both sides, which is Lambton Quay. I still don't think the waterfront is strong enough to give those sort of messages of draining from Lambton Quay back to the water, which is really important. And because Jervois Quay is a huge interruption to how the waterfront will work. It's interesting to see from Lambton Quay down to the waterfront, we are getting a huge improvement in their small streets, which is really part of that traditional pattern of how cities are settled and how they may work in the future. So that they, and I'm always of the opinion that you need the strongest people to be the custodians of the edge of the country city edge, or the waterfront water edge. You know, and we're not getting them. You know, we're getting the people who like the view. You know, I mean it's just ancillary to how they should be living. And we get people who are the poorest people in our cultures seem to get the sections out on the edge of the urban area. So we're not holding those edges that strongly. And so I suppose the future model for the waterfront should move quite a lot further. That's what I believe. You know, and that's what we should be thinking about in 200 or 300 years' time. But, on a bit of agreement. But I think it's important that we keep thinking about them like that. So walking down to that edge is very, very important. You walk past places which you enjoy. You walk past places where people live on the upper floors. You walk past narrow streets. You get down to the waterfront and you can move back and forth with us and Clinton. It seems a nice place for people to be nice to each other, to me. You know, there's not enough of that mix of different profiles of people living in that journey from the water to Lanarkey.
Like, I'm involved in the Auckland waterfront as well. I think the Auckland waterfront will very quickly surpass Wellington's waterfront. Nothing's happening in Wellington. And unfortunately, we're stuck with car parks where there should be buildings and people doing things. And Auckland, just on that issue of the industrial grittiness, it's sand pits right in the middle of North Wharf. They unload their fishing boats. They've got their fish processing factory across Jellicoe Street. And I understand they're really going for it. They're not going to move away. They're really strong there. You've got the one thing about the tank farm up there. You've got tanks. You've got oil tanks that come in and they berth within 100 metres of where people are sitting down eating their lunch and so on, with people running and what have you. And that's great actually. And unfortunately, that's something that we've tried to hold on to on the Wellington waterfront, but it's too difficult. The Queen's Wharf isn't big enough to take cruise ships. It takes some very tiny cruise ships. There used to be a fishing boat type we used to tie up on Queen's Wharf. It's no longer there. So it's all become a little bit, there's a risk of it becoming gentrified. And then it's gentrified and we're left with overly large open spaces, car parks where there should be a bit of spatial definition and activity. And it all looks a little bit sad, whereas Auckland is really going ahead with some really interesting stuff, including public space work and new activity down the waterfront. So there's a real challenge for Wellington. It's waterfront, and I guess as well as economically, obviously.
There must be pressure from some of those Auckland restaurants on the new waterfront to get the fishermen out. Do they appreciate the activity?
Not off-heard of. It's pretty special, when there are fishing boats literally tied up there. It's a bit like in the naked waterfront Arkariri, where the fishing boats come up and unload the fish there. It's very much part of the special character of the place. It's not staged. They've been doing it for years and years. They continue to do it. So, it's all working. That's working quite well.
More questions?
How is it that the diversity would be introduced in the waterfront here? And I suspect it will. So you talked about that well. But is there the diversity that we have a critique of here, perhaps that it's maybe becoming homogenous? We can imagine that maybe on some of those big sites there, one of them will be occupied by a major hotel or something.
You take the event centre and the shopping centre, there's room for 6 small streets through that space. And there's also a place that people should live. And there's a place where, when people live in those areas, the ground floor is a product of the people above them. And in many ways, you get people coming to places where they know other people who live close to them and use. So it's those little things that need to be thought about when you're looking at a certain level of diversity. And I'm sure somewhere along the waterfront can happen. I mean, I look at. I was privileged this week to go to Akaroa and look at and they just look at the tradition of Akaroa with the streets coming down to the edge, and it hasn't been ruined. And now they're getting a whole block of cruise ships coming into Akaroa Harbour, which is really, really exciting because it's from the cruise ship to the harbour to the village, which is just as important as the village to the cruise ships, and we've been through a pretty awful transitional period where we've actually seen from our waterfronts being the backyard to something which is the front yard for privileged people. So I think there's an answer somewhere in between.
One of the ways of dealing with that is something, to use a terrible technical term, placemaking. People whose task it is to make things happen, make events happen, animate space. This is what Jessica was talking about with all those really, really interesting things going to Christchurch, where you have got an old car park, so you try and make something happen. And one interesting thing up in the Auckland waterfront is an initiative called Garden to Table, which is about getting school kids growing stuff and then cooking in a communal garden. And so this is going to happen in there on what will be designated for a building in about 10 years' time. It's going to be this whole thing set up with classrooms inside, and 4 local schools are going to be sharing it, and they're going to have be going down there. We'd be down there for half a day a week or whatever, doing this stuff and cooking. It's because kids, they say kids in cities, many of them don't know where broccoli comes from or eggs. They come out of the fridge apparently, probably. But so there are ways you can do things like that to animate. Now we said that up in Auckland we said gosh, there are 4 local schools, Ponsonby and wherever. We said, well, wouldn't it be great to have a go through from Manukau City as well? That would really get some diversity, because it is a challenge to things when they're very expensive and new and so on. They become gentrified, and some people can feel excluded. But certainly there's a way of getting things to happen by actively figuring out ways of putting on events, doing things which are going to attract a range of people, not necessarily building much or building anything at all. But just getting